Hey guys, tonight we're diving into a story smoother than a Valium martini, and almost as shocking as discovering your neighbor's famous recipe is just crushed amphetamines. Welcome to the pastel-tinted, slightly dizzying world of the 1950s housewife. A woman expected to keep a spotless kitchen, a serene smile, and a bloodstream that basically doubled as a pharmaceutical experiment. Before we begin, hit like and subscribe. Only if you're actually into this kind of thing. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, what time it is, and how many cups of coffee it took to feel relaxed this morning. All right, dim the lights. Turn on a fan for some vintage white noise. Fluff your pillow, slip into your coziest pajamas, maybe even pour a Shirley Temple, the non-narcotic variety, and let's wander into the slightly sedated, slightly caffeinated, always baffling daily routine of the mid-century American housewife. But pause for a moment. Have you ever wondered what it really felt like to glide through a 1950s day, powered by a pharmaceutical cocktail that would make modern doctors faint? Was it truly blissful suburbia and gentle vacuuming? Or were you always just one Dexedrine away from alphabetizing your husband's socks at 3 a.m.? Did these women ever question why the laundry was folded for the third time in an hour? What did Mommy's little helper actually help with? And did anyone ever ask if Mommy wanted help stopping? Could you survive a week of gelatin salads, 4 hours of sleep, and enough prescription pills to tranquilize a small horse? Well, congratulations. You've just woken up in 1956 with a perfectly pressed apron, a smile slightly wider than medically advisable, and, you guessed it, you're already late for your second coffee. Welcome to the era where every woman was expected to be a steep-forward wife and every medicine cabinet was a pharmacy with zero adult supervision. Good luck. Your eyes flicker open at 6:03 am courtesy of an alarm clock that's more shrill than your mother-in-law's helpful advice. You're already buzzing, and it isn't from natural energy. That's right. Before you've even made it to the bathroom, you've popped the first of your pet pills. Breakfast of champions? More like breakfast of champions and amphetamines. Who needs coffee when the doctor prescribes motivation in pill form? Let's set the scene. You're lying on crisp starched sheets, the pillowcase still faintly perfumed with lavender sach and the distant scent of hairspray. Your nightstand looks like a pharmaceutical sampler platter. Tiny bottles lined up next to a half-read women's magazine and a tube of cold cream. The sun hasn't even finished its first stretch, but you're up out and already calculating how many steps it takes to beat the kids to the bathroom. There's no snooze button in this house, only the inexorable tick-tock of expectations. You swing your legs out of bed, feeling the little white tablet begin to work its 1950s magic. A warm rush of clarity washes over you. Clarity, energy, and a faint suspicion that you might alphabetize the entire spice rack before noon. This is peppiness with a chemical edge. Heart fluttering, smile ready, and a mental to-do list already unfolding like a military operation. The house is quiet, but your brain is not. You could run a marathon. Or at least you could if marathons were socially acceptable for women and didn't interfere with ironing. The bathroom is your first battlefield. You flick on the light, a harsh, unforgiving glare that reveals every smudge on the mirror and every fine line you've been told to moisturize away. A quick glance at your reflection, eyes a little wide, hair already plotting to defy the setting lotion, lips set in a determined smile. You open the medicine cabinet and take stock as if you're a general checking supplies before a siege. Today it's a Dexedrine morning. Tomorrow maybe Miltown if things get dicey before breakfast. You don't just take pills, you strategize them. Now it's time for the morning parade. Robe, slippers, and the sacred ritual of looking presentable before anyone else stumbles awake. There's a moment shuffling past the thermostat where you remember a time when you used to wake up slowly with dreams and soft morning light. Not anymore. Now it's all efficiency all the time. Why waste a precious minute on drowsiness when you could be prepping lunches, sweeping crumbs, and radiating American optimism straight from your adrenal glands? Downstairs, The kitchen is chilly and dark. You flick on the fluorescent light and listen as it hums to life. Much like you, only with less pharmaceutical help. The coffee percolator gurgles in the background, but honestly, it's just for show at this point. Your real fuel is coursing through your veins, courtesy of your family physician and a nation determined to outpace the Soviets in both productivity and personal grooming. You glance at the clock. You have precisely 18 minutes before the children descend in a fog of sleep and cereal demands. You fill the sink, set out the cereal bowls, and slice a banana with military precision. There's a pulse of energy in your fingertips. A tiny tremor maybe, but nothing that can't be disguised by brisk, purposeful movement. Every task feels urgent, necessary, and somehow slightly surreal. Did you always move this fast, or is time itself speeding up to keep pace with your central nervous system? You can't remember, and honestly, you don't have time to care. You hum as you work, a tune you can't quite place, but it has the rhythm of someone who's about to alphabetize the canned goods for the third time this week. There's a strange serenity in the ritual, the clink of dishes, the hiss of steam, the comforting knowledge that you are exactly where you're supposed to be, doing exactly what society has instructed, only with a little more artificial enthusiasm than anyone admits. And when the kids come tumbling in, shouting and bickering, you greet them with a dazzling smile that feels just a touch too wide. But that's okay. You're awake, alert, and ready for another day of 1950s perfection. Or at least you will be just as soon as the second pill kicks in. Step into your suburban bathroom and behold the true altar of 1950s domesticity. Your medicine cabinet gleams with little amber bottles. Dexedrine for pep, Miltown for calm, phenobarbital for the nerves, and a lipstick just in case. It's the kind of selection that makes you feel like a pharmacist with a side hustle in existential dread. Let's really take it in. The mirror squeaks as you open it, revealing shelf after shelf of pharmaceutical promise. Top shelf. The uppers neatly labeled, neatly aligned like trophies for surviving another week of PDA meetings. Bridge club and the endless call of dirty laundry. Next to the Dexedrine are the so-called tranquilizers, a word that sounds relaxing until you realize it's just mid-century code for this. We'll sedate you enough to listen to your husband explain tax deductions for the 5th time. Each bottle has your name in blue script with dosage instructions that basically translate to take as needed or whenever you feel like screaming into a dish towel. The lower shelf is for the special occasion concoctions, a little phenobarbital for the days when the in-laws visit, some secondel tucked behind a bottle of mouthwash, and a sample-sized perfume in case you need to disguise the faint chemical tang that's starting to define your personal brand. Somewhere on the edge, a stray lipstick stands at attention because nothing says I'm in control like a perfect coral smile. Even if your resting heart rate could set off a Geiger counter, there's a tactile pleasure to this medicine cabinet. The bottles are cool to the touch with those thick, clicky lids that require just enough effort to open that it feels ceremonial. The labels are comforting in a way. Each one a prescription, a promise, and a socially sanctioned secret. Outside this bathroom, you're expected to smile through everything. In here, you can close the cabinet door, breathe in the faint aroma of Pond's and talcum powder, and enjoy a moment of pharmaceutical peace. Of course, the real magic is not the pills themselves, but the unspoken ritual. No one talks about what's actually in these bottles. You wouldn't dream of discussing side effects or dependency at the next neighborhood cookout. Instead, there's a gentle collective amnesia about how many housewives in your subdivision are on the same treatment plan. If someone slips up and calls them mood pills instead of vitamins, there's a brief, awkward silence. Then someone offers more coffee, and everyone nods along. It's a secret club with membership as easy as dropping off a prescription at the corner pharmacy. The doctor, of course, is a regular visitor in this story. White coat, quick smile, fountain pen ready. He asks how you're sleeping, if you're eating, if you feel run down. He never questions the endless list of tasks you're expected to juggle, or whether it's even humanly possible to stay cheerful and slim while hosting a fondue night for 12. A little something to help, he says. And the next week, there's a new bottle, a new solution. You can't help but wonder if he's getting a kickback from the pill manufacturer, or just likes being the local hero. The medicine cabinet is more than storage. It's a lifeline, a backup plan, and a safety valve for the days when the washing machine floods, the dog eats your roast, and your youngest tries to flush a sock down the toilet. Every pill is a tiny prayer to the gods of composure. Please just get me through this day. Please let me smile at the neighbors and not think about running away to join a jazz band. Modern medicine cabinets are full of vitamins, wrinkle serums, and 3 half-used tubes of toothpaste. But in the 1950s, this was where you hid your anxiety, your exhaustion, and the small rebellions against a world that demanded you be everything to everyone. It was sanctuary, confession booth, and secret handshake, all in one. So, you close the mirror door, reapply your lipstick, and face the day, one carefully counted pill at a time, knowing the real magic is convincing everyone else that you've never needed a single one. By 8 a.m., you're sorting breakfast cereal with one hand and discreetly swallowing another vitamin with the other. Mother's Little Helper isn't just a song lyric. It's your strategy for surviving the second round of sibling bickering before noon. And don't look now, but Daddy's not exactly innocent either. He's on his 3rd digestive tonic, red whiskey before his commute. Let's talk about the Helper. It comes in a tiny, innocent-looking tablet, usually chalky, sometimes minty, always prescribed with a wink and a nudge by your local slightly overworked doctor. Officially, it's for the nerves, the blues, or just a touch of fatigue. Unofficially, it's the only thing standing between you and a televised meltdown during the Captain Kangaroo commercial break. You keep it close, tucked in your pocket, slipped in with the sugar bowl, hidden under the good china, just in case the morning gets away from you and the children start using their indoor voices at maximum volume. It's the early 1950s, and every advertisement is blaring at you to be your best self. There's no app for that. There's just chemistry. Your mother had black coffee and the occasional peppermint schnapps. You've got a streamlined, medically sanctioned shortcut to patience with a side of mild euphoria. It's hard to say exactly when it became routine. Maybe it was after the second child or the 3rd move across town, or that one school board meeting when you realized your life had turned into a highlight reel for domestic restlessness. And here's the best part. Nobody really talks about it at the playground, at the bridge table, even at church. Everyone's smiling through a haze of pep, calm, and good grooming. You look so well rested. Someone cuzzes if you've spent the night at a spa and not folding laundry at 1 a.m. with your thoughts racing at 50 miles per hour. You laugh and nod, but you both know deep down that it's the little helper working overtime. Meanwhile, in the background, Dad is quietly waging his own war on reality. His toolkit is just as well stocked, but instead of pills, it's a discreet bottle tucked behind the ketchup in the fridge or stashed under the passenger seat of the Buick just to settle the stomach. He'll say, swirling a glass before breakfast, digestive tonic after shave with a kick. Secret ingredient in the morning coffee. It goes by many names, but it serves a familiar purpose, smoothing out the rough edges of another suburban day. There's a rhythm to it. You help the kids find their shoes, always missing, always just out of reach. You tie bows, zip jackets, spread jelly, and try not to cry when the dog tracks muddy paw prints through the freshly mopped kitchen. Dad breezes by in a crisp shirt, tie knotted perfectly, the faintest whiff of aftershave, and something stronger trailing behind him. He pecks you on the cheek, grabs his briefcase, and is out the door before the first argument over the cereal box prize can even start. On some mornings, you catch each other's eyes. There's an understanding, a silent truce. We're both just getting by. The look says, Let's not ask too many questions about how neither of you mentions the fact that your doctor writes a new prescription every month, or that the corner store clerk always winks when Dad buys mouthwash at 7:30 a.m. This is suburbia. As long as the lawn is trimmed, the kids are dressed, and no one screams at the PDA, the details don't matter. But sometimes in the quiet moments between chaos, you wonder who exactly is this helper helping? Are you more patient or just more numb? Is Dad more relaxed or just farther away? The days blur together in a cheerful fog of chores, pills, and polite denial. If you stop moving, stop swallowing, stop sipping, what happens next? That's not a question you'll ask today. Maybe not ever. For now, you finish pouring the milk, pop another vitamin, and steel yourself for the rest of the morning. If nothing else, you can always count on two things: the relentless passage of time, and the knowledge that somewhere in a medicine cabinet or a flask, there's a little extra help waiting just in case. Time to hit the grocery store. You glide down the aisles with the efficiency of a caffeinated Roomba. Shopping lists already memorized. Sales spotted from a mile away. You're moving so fast you may or may not be vibrating. Who says housework isn't an Olympic sport? Let's set the scene. The station wagon is barely parked before you're halfway out the door. Purse slung over one arm. Coupon organizer gripped like a tactical weapon. The car keys jangle. Your lipstick is on, and your house dress is pressed within an inch of its polyester life. There's a soft metallic click from your pillbox as you slip a quick booster under your tongue for focus, for energy, for getting in and out of aisle 6 in under 30 seconds flat. The automatic doors swish open and you're off. Fluorescent lights humming. Background music just loud enough to mask the inner monologue, reminding you to grab the right kind of Jell-O this time, or face another dinner table inquisition. The shopping cart's wheels squeak as you round the first corner at speeds usually reserved for bank robbers and Olympic sprinters. But this is your domain. The grocery store isn't just a chore. It's an event, a proving ground, a high-stakes scavenger hunt that just happens to sell laundry detergent. You weave through the aisles with laser-like focus, the edges of your vision just a little bit sharper. Thank you, Dexedrine. You spot Mrs. Gladys from down the street, squinting at a can of cream corn. You wave. She waves back. Both of you are smiling, but it's hard to say if anyone's pupils are a normal size anymore. I sizzle too. You bypass the cereal section because you've already memorized which box has the best coupon and which one the kids will refuse to eat after 3 days. Next up, canned goods. Grab 2. Check the labels. Add a third, just in case there's a nuclear war or an unexpected church potluck. The beauty of this new energized lifestyle is how quickly you can multitask. You're comparing prices, checking expiration dates, doing mental math worthy of a blackjack dealer, all while fielding small talk from neighbors who are moving at a much more natural pace. The intercom blares a 2-for-1 special, and you swerve, grabbing green beans like you're on a game show with a $1,000 prize for enthusiasm. The manager looks at you a little strangely. Was that the third lap around the frozen food? You can't remember, but the shopping list is shrinking and you haven't forgotten a thing. The produce section is where you truly shine. Apples. Tap for firmness. Lettuce. Inspect for wilt. Bananas. No green tips. You're a one-woman quality control team. You eyeball the pyramid of oranges with suspicion. Last week's batch was a little too piffy. And snatch 3. Calculating vitamin C content against projected family sniffle statistics. Who knew a prescription could also make you a nutritional overachiever? Your cart fills, but your pace never slows. You stack, organize, and optimize your route so efficiently that NASA could learn a thing or two. In the dairy case, you spot a new brand of yogurt and mentally compose a review for next week's bridge club, assuming anyone's memory lasts that long these days. You pause just long enough to grab ice cream, 2 cartons for emergencies, and dash toward the checkout, barely registering that you've done all this in under 17 minutes. At the register, you beam at the cashier, hands slightly trembling as you pass over a mountain of coupons, exact change, and a rehearsed compliment about the store's new floor wax. The bagger can barely keep up. Outside, sunlight blazes. You load the trunk, check your watch, and realize you've got time to spare. You consider doing another lap for fun, but instead you peel out of the parking lot with groceries and adrenaline. To spare, housework isn't just an Olympic sport. It's a relay, a sprint, and sometimes a marathon. And with just the right motivation, you're bringing home the gold, the groceries, and the only family in the neighborhood that never runs out of canned peaches. It's 10 a.m. time for a Tupperware party. You pour yourself a glass of company wine, the good cherry, and discreetly pop a tranquilizer to keep the suburban gossip from triggering a full existential crisis. Matching your hostess's energy is easy when you're one part sedated, one part terrified of being judged for off-brand cling wrap. Let's set the scene. The living room is freshly vacuumed, the good slipcovers are out, and someone's managed to sculpt a Jell-O salad into a vaguely unsettling shade of teal. You're wearing pearls and a smile, both of which feel a little tight. As the doorbell rings, you do a quick lipstick check. Never let them see you sweat, and definitely never let them see you sober. You step inside to a sea of pastel house dresses and nervous laughter. The hostess, Mrs. Larkin, is already 2 glasses in and performing an interpretive dance with a stack of modular storage containers. Ladies, you haven't lived until you've sealed in the freshness. She trills, snapping a burp seal lid with a gusto that makes you wonder if she's doubled her dosage, too. There's a practiced rhythm to the party. Sip, nod, agree, sample a sliver of aspic, and pretend you can tell the difference between harvest gold and sunshine yellow. Meanwhile, the air is thick with polite competition. Someone brags about reorganizing her pantry in under 30 minutes. Someone else quietly one-ups with a story about color-coding her leftovers and her children's underwear drawer. The only thing more powerful than a good tranquilizer in this room is the social anxiety that comes from realizing you're still using the old poly latch bowls, which, as everyone knows, are practically barbaric. The real show isn't in the kitchenware. It's in the silent game of who's coping better, who's cracking, and who's most convincingly medicated. Tranquilizers are the unspoken guest of honor. The jingles promised these pills would restore feminine composure, but what they actually do is smooth the jagged edges of social survival. You listen to Mrs. Jensen's monologue about her husband's promotion and marvel at your own serenity. Is it personal growth, or just the second? Hard to say. All you know is you can sit through 20 minutes of matching lids and not once think about screaming into the snack tray. There's a moment where the party slows and conversation drifts to the universal language of discontent. Husbands who forget anniversaries, kids who forget manners, the latest scandal involving the neighbor's mailbox, and a very confused delivery man. You're floating on a calm cotton candy cloud of mild sedation, able to laugh at all the right moments, immune to the sharpest barbs. Someone brings up divorce, but only in whispers. After all, the only thing less acceptable than stale leftovers is marital instability. You nibble a cracker and marvel at the genius of the Tupperware sales model. Gather a group of women, ply them with booze and barbiturates, and let competitive anxiety do the rest. By the third demonstration, you're seriously considering buying a set of stackable tumblers, even though you own more plastic than the average child's toy box. You sign up not just for the discount, but for the fleeting sense of belonging. A loyalty program for the pharmacologically enhanced. Before you leave, there's the sacred raffle, a round of applause, and a parting favor, a pastel mini spatula, and the knowledge that your kitchen will never quite be enough. But that's okay. You survived another Tupperware party with your dignity, your pearls, and your prescription intact. You hug your hostess, promise to host next month, and float home on a gentle wave of chemical tranquility. In the end, the real secret to a successful Tupperware party isn't the party freshness seal. It's the tranquilizers, the teamwork, and the tenacity of women determined to keep it all together. One container and one pill at a time. You gather for coffee with the girls. The air is thick with cigarette smoke, frosted cake, and just the faintest whiff of prescription stimulants. Conversation moves at a pace only possible when everyone's had 3 cups of Sanker and a Dexedrine chaser. This isn't just a coffee break. It's the suburban equivalent of a board meeting. Open mic night, an Olympic sprint rolled into one. The hostess today, it's Linda. Tomorrow, it's Marge ushers you into a kitchen that's suspiciously spotless. Save for the ashtray perched beside a tray of coffee rings and the last crumbling corner of a Sara Lee pound cake. The good china is out. The percolator is percolating with more urgency than the average ambulance. And in the center of the table, a modest bowl of pastel mint stands guard, like a sacrificial offering to the gods of Beau's social grace. Your friends slide into their seats, purses tucked, hair sprayed into gravity-defying shapes. Each woman an expert in hiding last night's insomnia behind a flick of mascara and a dash of liquid foundation. You clink mugs, breathe in the sharp tang of instant coffee and Camels, and exchange a knowing glance. Caffeine isn't the only thing elevating the energy level this morning. The ritual begins with cake, always a little dry, always a little sweet, sliced into slabs that could double as construction material. No one cares. The first bite goes down with a gulp of coffee, so strong it might technically qualify as a controlled substance. Conversation erupts. Someone's husband bought the wrong kind of motor oil. Someone else's child accidentally colored the bathroom grout with lipstick. At least yours doesn't eat paste. Another woman sighs, and everyone laughs in unison. The tempo just a shade too manic. Soon the real talk begins. Is it hot flashes or just the Benzedrine? No one knows, but everyone's cheeks are flushed and eyes wide, pupils like dinner plates. There's a faint clattering as silver spoons tap saucers. Possibly nerves, possibly just excess energy. Looking for an exit. The topics bounce faster than a game of pinball. School politics. The new neighbor's strange lawn ornaments. Who's wearing what at church? Who switched to diet bread? And what in God's name is happening to Janet's curtains? Modern group chats have nothing on this. Here, every confession is met with instant empathy and onupma. Shep, you mentioned how you cleaned the baseboards at 3 a.m., and suddenly everyone has a story about waxing the kitchen floor on hands and knees, alphabetizing recipe cards, or repainting the mailbox between midnight and sunrise. The secret source, amphetamines. Darling, nobody says it out loud, but everyone knows. The little orange pill tucked in a purse. The diet aid that gives you the stamina to frost a cake and solve a word jumble at the same time. There's an honesty in these gatherings buried under layers of politeness and powdered sugar. Someone always asks, how do you manage it all? And someone else winks and whispers with a little help from science. The laughter that follows is half camaraderie, half catharsis. You all know the truth. Behind every perfect pie and spotless floor, there's a medicine cabinet and a pharmacy on speed dial. By the third refill, you can practically see sound. Cake crumbs scatter, stories spiral, and the dog looks increasingly nervous as the volume rises. If there's a downside, it's that the energy comes with a slight edge. Voices can get sharp. Jokes can land a little too hard. But there's something oddly comforting about knowing you're not the only one riding the caffeine roller coaster, clutching a Dexedrine safety harness. Eventually, the clock ticks toward noon, and one by one, the ladies gather their things. Sunglasses on, handbags zipped, errands already half finished in their minds. You say your goodbyes with kisses and promises to do it again soon. And you step back into the blinding suburban sunlight, heart thumping, head buzzing, smile fixed, and ready for whatever comes next. Because in the end, it's not really about the coffee or the cake, or even the benzidine. It's about the secret network of women propping each other up. One slice, One joke, one tiny pharmaceutical pick-me-up at a time. Time for the daily cleaning marathon. You vacuum the carpet, mop the linoleum, and dust every surface twice. Everything sparkles, including your smile, which you're pretty sure is now permanently affixed by the Valium you just took to unwind from the excitement of scrubbing the toilet. The cleaning ritual starts early because nothing says good morning quite like a burst of domestic adrenaline and the low, comforting hum of the Hoover. The kids are at school. The husband is at work. And for a moment, the house belongs to you and your to-do list, which is less of a list and more of an epic saga. Armed with your favorite floral apron and a dusting cloth that's seen more action than most professional boxers, you wage your private war against grime. Vacuum first. The rhythmic back and forth is weirdly soothing, hypnotic, even like mowing a tiny green carpeted lawn. The scent of powdered carpet freshener drifts through the air, mingling with lemony polish and the faint chemical perfume of whatever's under the sink. Is it safe? Is it radioactive? Who knows? It's from the future, and that's all that matters. You move with purpose, heart fluttering with the afterglow of your morning pep pill. Hand steady enough. Just or maybe not. You pause. Check your reflection in the window and flash that practice grin. Everything's fine. Mop next. The linoleum shines so brightly. You could use it to signal passing aircraft. You bend. You scrub. You stretch. Feeling strangely limber, almost floaty, thanks to the tranquilizer smoothing out the edges of sore muscles and existential dread. The kitchen glows, the bathroom sparkles, and you find yourself locked in a one-woman contest with last night's toothpaste splatter. Nobody else will notice, but you will. In this house, cleanliness is more than godliness. It's an Olympic event, and you're gunning for a personal best. Every once in a while, you lose track of what you've already cleaned. Did you dust the mantle? Wipe the baseboards? Why are there 3 bottles of window spray in the same room? No matter. When in doubt, start again. There's a fog in your head, a plush, drifting sensation that makes everything feel a bit lighter and a lot more manageable. Your body is moving, hands doing their work almost automatically, while your thoughts drift pleasantly from tomorrow's grocery list to where the astronauts have to do their own laundry. You move from room to room, performing small miracles, erasing fingerprints, plumping pillows, straightening picture frames, everything in its place. Nothing out of order, at least for now. Sometimes you catch your reflection, smiling, always smiling. The Valium helps smoothing out not just your nerves, but your entire personality, leaving you with a sense of mild, floaty satisfaction. You could be annoyed about the muddy shoe prints in the hallway, but honestly, it's too much effort. You'll just clean them again. It's fine. Sometimes you wonder if all this perfection is for you or for someone else. A parade of spotless surfaces and lavender-scented air fresheners. For an imaginary judge who might appear at any moment. You hum softly, dusting knickknacks, rearranging magazines, making everything just so. The house is quiet except for the soft swish of your skirt and the distant echo of a television commercial promising even whiter whites and brighter brights. You believe it a little. Maybe that's the pills talking. Lunch comes and goes in a blur of cold coffee and leftover toast. Crumbs immediately swept into the dustpan. By afternoon, the house gleams with the kind of sterile beauty usually reserved for model homes and crime scenes. You finish the final sweep, sink into the couch, and take a deep breath. There's a strange satisfaction in knowing every counter is gleaming, even if your brain feels just as polished but a bit more empty. The kids will be home soon. The mess will start again. But for a moment, everything is clean, quiet and calm, at least on the surface. Underneath, there's a gentle pharmaceutical haze that softens every sharp thought, every anxious doubt, every unfinished task. In the sparkling reflection of your living room, you catch a glimpse of peace. Manufactured maybe, but peace all the same. And sometimes that's enough. Once a month, you visit the family doctor. He doesn't ask how you're feeling. He asks if you want the usual. You nod and walk out with a fresh prescription for enough stimulants to keep a jazz band awake through the Cold War. It's just to help you keep up with the kids. He says every woman needs a little boost these days. Let's talk about the doctor's office. A pastel-walled sanctuary where the waiting room smells like a combination of Lysol and optimism. The receptionist greets you by name and doesn't bother with small talk. She already knows why you're here. The magazines on the coffee table are full of smiling, wide-eyed women vacuuming like their lives depend on it. In the corner, a potted plant tries to look alive, but much like you is mostly running on hope and chemical support. You're ushered in and perched on crinkly paper that sticks to the back of your knees. The doctor arrives, white coat spotless, smile practiced, prescription pad at the ready. He glances at your chart, but not your eyes. He doesn't ask about your mood, your sleep, or whether you've started mistaking the cat for one of your children again. He just clicks his pen and says, "So, how's the energy?" You mumble something about feeling a little run down, and the answer is as predictable as the housework. Another round of little orange pet pills dispensed with the cheerful certainty of a man who's never once folded laundry while fielding a tantrum. He tells you the pills are perfectly safe, citing the latest studies published by men in horn-rimmed glasses who have never in their lives been asked to host a birthday party and deep clean a living room in the same afternoon. He offers a wink and a fatherly pat on the hand. Don't worry, all the ladies are on something these days. It's almost comforting. Almost. You take the script, stuff it in your purse, and make a mental note to never let him see the dark circles under your eyes. The pharmacy is the next stop, a fluorescent lit wonderland of pill bottles, perfume, and 3-for-1 deals on cotton balls. The pharmacist barely bats an eye as he fills your prescription, sliding the package across the pegs, counter with the same reverence reserved for precious metals. "Have a good day, Mrs. Johnson," he says, not even a hint of irony in his voice. You head home, the pills rattling like maracas in your handbag. There's a tiny thrill in knowing you have the good stuff. A monthly delivery of motivation in tablet form, stamped with your name and doctor's signature. You stash the bottle behind the flower in the kitchen next to the birthday candles and the emergency bottle of cherry, just in case the PDA calls an emergency meeting or the dog decides the living room is the new bathroom. Each dose is a ticket to productivity. 1 in the morning, and suddenly the entire house is sparkling. The laundry is folded, and you're planning tomorrow's dinner party by noon. On days when the kids come home from school with 3 new stains and 4 new science projects, you up the ante half a pill more just for pep. You can't feel your left eyelid, but you can definitely finish frosting cupcakes while supervising long division. Sometimes as you zoom through chores, you remember the doctor's words, a little boost. You wonder if he ever tells the men in the waiting room the same thing, or if they get a boost in the form of 2 fingers of bourbon and newspaper. You shrug, put another load in the washer, and tell yourself it's all perfectly normal. At night, as you stare at the medicine cabinet, you weigh gratitude and guilt in equal measure. The pills help. The doctor says you're fine. You're doing what's expected, just with a bit more speed. In a 1950s suburbia, that's the best prescription anyone can write. By 2:00 p.m., you should be exhausted, but you're not. That's because the slump is easily fixed with a tiny white pill and a Pepsi. Your hands might be a little shaky, but the laundry is folded, the beds are made, and you still have energy left to alphabetize the soup cans. This is the 1950s when the post-lunch crash is less a wall to hit and more a gentle speed bump smoothed over by the pharmaceutical ingenuity in your kitchen cabinet. You check the clock, see the minute hand inching past too late for coffee, too early for martinis, and smile. A brief stop at the fridge, Pepsi, ice cubes, a squeeze of lemon if you're feeling fancy. You grab the little pill box, as much a part of your afternoon as your pink plastic dish gloves, and dry swallow a pick-me-up with practiced ease. Suddenly, the haze lifts. The fog clears. You're practically humming, vibrating with possibility, ready to tackle the next item on your never-ending list of domestic heroics. There's laundry to bring in from the line, towels to fold with military precision, and dust bunnies multiplying under the sofa like they're on some kind of fertility medication. The house itself seems to dare you to stop moving, but you've got science on your side. The world outside is suspiciously quiet. Suburbia in the mid-afternoon is all distant. Lawnmowers, the drone of an AM radio, and the clink of glass as the neighbor's ice cubes rattle in her own secret recipe cola. In other words, prime time for productivity, and you're not about to let a little thing like human fatigue stand in your way. Back in the kitchen, you catch yourself alphabetizing the pantry. Cream of mushroom, cream of chicken, tomato, tuna, soup cans lined up like soldiers, labels facing out, ready to impress or terrify the next unsuspecting dinner guest. You find yourself reorganizing the silverware drawer for the third time this week, arranging forks by size, spoons by luster, butter knives by existential purpose. It's soothing, almost meditative. If meditation involved the heart rate of a caffeinated squirrel, you wipe down the counters with a flourish. The check linoleum shines, so bright you could use it as a runway for model airplanes. For a moment, you even contemplate scrubbing the grout with an old toothbrush. Why? Because you can. Because your energy is bottomless, or at least as bottomless as the prescription bottle behind the flour tin. There's a brief, surreal moment when you wonder if maybe this isn't normal. Should one person really have this much drive at 2 o'clock in the afternoon? Is it healthy to be planning tomorrow's meatloaf while simultaneously pondering the possibility of repainting the baseboards? No time for introspection. And the bathroom needs fresh towels. And someone has left the toothpaste cap off again by now. Your hands might be a little shaky. Your smile a little fixed. Your voice just an octave too chipper when you call the dog in from the yard, but the house is spotless. You feel invincible. You may not be able to sit still for more than 3 minutes, but who wants to sit when there's so much to do? If anyone asks, you tell them you're just energetic, maybe naturally peppy, and hope they don't notice you've started folding the napkins into origami cranes. Of course, there are trade-offs. The crash is coming. You know it. Even if you refuse to think about it before dinner, there's a point when the pills wear off, when the pep fades, and the only thing left buzzing is the light fixture in the hall. But for now, you're riding the high domestic goddess, queen of the kitchen, high priestess of productivity. You take one last look at your handiwork. Everything in order, everything in its place. The afternoon slump is vanquished once again, conquered by a magic combo of chemistry and sheer willpower. In the distance, a door slams, a bus breaks, and you realize the kids are home. Round 2 is about to begin, and you're ready. Or at least you got a secret weapon in your pocket, just in case. You step outside to water the hydrangeas, feeling the subtle tremor of over-caffeinated nerves and underappreciated effort. You wave to your neighbor. She waves back, her smile just as dazzling, just as glassy. Suburbia looks perfect, but you both know the inside story is more pharmaceutical than fairy tale. It's early afternoon, and the cul-de-sac is at its quietest. The sun is shining, the lawns are green, and there's not a single weed daring to show its face. Birds chirp cheerfully over the whir of distant sprinklers. Somewhere a dog barks half-heartedly. It could almost be peaceful if not for the low hum of anxiety and artificial energy buzzing under your skin. You water the flowers meticulously, of course, counting the seconds for each plant. You read somewhere that a hydrangea needs exactly 12 seconds, and you'll be damned if you're the reason the blossoms droop this summer. Next door, Mrs. Carson is rearranging her already perfectly placed garden gnomes. She glances over, raising her hand with the serene calm of someone who either just discovered meditation or is riding the gentle wave of a freshly dissolved tranquilizer. Her flower beds are perfect. Her hair is set. You both know this is a high-wire act, and neither of you is wearing a net. The performance is seamless. On the surface, Everything in suburbia is controlled and coordinated. Neat lawns, pressed sundresses, children who seem to materialize from nowhere just to shout, "Yes, Mom," before vanishing again. The block is a parade of well-maintained cars and even better-maintained facets. But beneath the surface, it's less Leave It to Beaver and more mildly unhinged on Main Street. You pause to admire the view, the neighborhood, the hydrangeas, the rows of near-identical houses, each one harboring its own small arsenal of coping mechanisms. There's an unspoken competition here, a pressure to outbliss the neighbors. Your garden must be lush, your children well-behaved, your windows streak-free and gleaming. But no one talks about what it actually takes to maintain all that bliss, or what it costs behind closed doors. Sometimes the side effects leak through. You catch your hands trembling as you scrub aphids off a leaf. Or you notice Mrs. Carson smoothing her skirt for the 4th time in as many minutes. Your brain races with the aftertaste of caffeine and Mother's Little Helper, bouncing from mental checklist to mild paranoia. Did you leave the iron on? Did you forget to RSVP to the school picnic? Is that a spider or just a fleck of potting soil? The kids' laughter drifts from the backyard. For a moment, you remember your own childhood, when summer meant sticky hands and grass stains, not color-coded schedules and a pill box tucked discreetly in the kitchen drawer. You wonder if your children will one day look back and realize how much of their happiness was manufactured with sugar, soda, and prescription-grade optimism. Your neighbor calls over the hedge. "Beautiful day, isn't it?" Her voice is bright, her eyes a little too wide. You both know this isn't a conversation so much as a mutual reassurance ritual. Just lovely. You call back the words floating on a cloud of artificial calm. The performance continues. You move to the roses. You pinch off the brown petals. Hands steady now with the help of chemistry. The sky is blue. The birds are singing. And you almost convince yourself this is real. That bliss can be grown and maintained if only you water it enough and keep the side effects trimmed away like last year's dead branches. But as you finish your circuit, returning the hose to its perfect coil, you can't help but wonder, when did happiness become something you had to work so hard to display? Is this suburban dream actually for you? Or is it just another act in the neighborhood pageant? And if you stopped waving, stopped smiling, would anyone even notice? Or would the show go on? Pristine, polished, and ever so slightly medicated. You step back inside, garden flawless, hands still trembling. The flowers are thriving, the illusion is complete, and somewhere deep down you hope that's enough. For today, school lets out at 3:15, and the carpool line is a test of reflexes, social poise. Fortunately, your Dexedrine is still in effect, and you can field gossip, wrangle children, and parallel park with the precision of a Formula One driver on 6 hours of sleep. The clock on the dashboard ticks toward go time as you cruise toward the school. The radio chirping out easy listening tunes while your mind runs calculations worthy of a NASA launch. Backpack check. After school snack check. Sanity questionable, but the prescription says refill as needed. You take your place in the long snaking line of wood-paneled station wagons, all shining in the autumn sun, each one containing a woman with a white-knuckled grip on the steering wheel and the 1,000-why stare of a carpool veteran. Your window is cracked, and the breeze is a mix of exhaust, playground dust, and a faint whiff of perfume from the car ahead. Chanel No. 5. With a top note of mild desperation, you wave at the crossing guard with a smile that feels both genuine and chemically enhanced. A sea of mothers leans out of idling cars, catching up on news about PDA bake sales, who's teaching what, and which child came home with the latest suspicious rash. Parallel parking in this gauntlet is not for the faint of heart. You spot your window, shift into reverse, and slide into place on the first try. A minor miracle aided by nerves of Dexedrine steel. Mrs. Patterson gives you an approving nod. She saw you clip the curb last week and is quietly keeping score. In the rear view mirror, you check your lipstick, smooth your hair, and practice your calm. How about this look? It's more for you than anyone else. The first wave of children pours out, shouting and skipping, shoes untied and shirts already untucked. You scan the crowd for yours. There they are, backpacks bouncing, already arguing about who gets the front seat. You offer a tight-lipped smile to Mrs. Russell, who leans in through the window, ready to deliver the latest episode of neighborhood drama. Did you hear about the Johnson boy expelled for chewing gum? Can you imagine? You nod commiserate and mentally mark school gossip off your bingo card for the week. Wrangling your children into the car is a full contact sport. You catch a flying lunchbox, separate two siblings who are already wrestling over a crumpled worksheet, and answer 3 rapid-fire questions about what's for dinner, why they have to go to piano, and who invented math, all while buckling seatbelts and deflecting a juice box spill with reflexes you're pretty sure you didn't have before your morning pill. The carpool line inches forward, a ballet of brake lights and passive-aggressive waves. You try to maintain a facade of calm, but inside you're calculating how long until someone melts down, child or parent. It's anyone's guess. You keep one eye on the rear-view mirror, monitoring the growing storm of sibling rivalry in the back seat, and one eye on the swarm of parents eyeing each other's vehicles for evidence of last week's spilled milk or forgotten gym shorts. At every stop sign, there's another challenge. Mrs. Graham's just a quick chat. The principal's frown of doom. A stray soccer ball bouncing into traffic. You navigate it all. Adrenaline and amphetamines carrying you through. Every nerve wired and ready. The line finally breaks free, and you floor to the speed limit, of course, making a flawless right turn out of the school zone, victorious and only slightly frazzled. On the way home, the kids chatter, the radio plays, and you realize you did it. Another day, another successful extraction from the suburban jungle gym. You merge onto the main road, Dexedrine still humming in your bloodstream, and allow yourself a deep, victorious breath. School pickup survived for today at least. And tomorrow, well, you'll cross that carpool line when you come to it. It's time to cook dinner again. You chop, stir, and sauté at triple speed, chattering about the PDA, and memorizing tomorrow's to-do list all at once. By the time your husband gets home, you've served a meal, quizzed the kids on spelling, and cleaned the entire kitchen. Did you taste the food? No clue. It's all a pleasant, slightly buzzing blur. The sun is sliding down behind the neighbors' immaculate hedges, and you're in full culinary command. The kitchen clock ticks down the seconds, but you're already 3 steps ahead. Onions diced, meat browning, potatoes peeled and boiling like tiny starchy time bombs. Each movement is efficient, decisive, and ever so slightly twitchy. Thanks to the last pep pill, still running a marathon in your bloodstream, spatula in one hand, phone receiver cradled on your shoulder, you feel a last-minute call from Marge about the PDA bake sale. No, Marge, I cannot make 5 dozen lemon bars by Friday, but thank you for thinking of me. Then pivot to reminding a child to finish their spelling worksheet. Another pot boils over. You clean it up without missing a beat, speed, accuracy, and a sort of serene detachment from your physical form. Tonight's menu is a greatest hits medley. Meatloaf, mashed potatoes, peas from a can because fresh is for Saturdays, and a suspiciously wobbly gelatin salad that glows with the kind of radioactive enthusiasm only 1950s recipe books could muster. Your hands move automatically, muscle memory taking over as you line up plates and forks, and hope you remember to defrost the apple pie. The radio murmurs a friendly soundtrack in the background. Top tunes for homemakers on the go. The announcer's voice is smooth and soothing like if Valium had a human form. You hum along, barely registering the lyrics as you race through the final steps. Gravy rolls in the oven. A last flurry of salad tossing that could power a wind tunnel. The kids drift in and out, leaving trails of homework, socks, and existential questions about why peas are always slightly gray. You fire back answers. Eat your veggies. The Cold War depends on it while correcting spelling and reviewing math facts. The energy is relentless, but you keep pace. Everything is happening at double speed, like someone set lifestyle to hyperdrive. Your husband's car pulls into the driveway, tires crunching on the concrete, and you snap into finishing mode. Counters wiped, hair smoothed, apron swapped for something slightly less splattered. The dining room table is already set with napkins folded into vaguely recognizable shapes. Maybe cranes, maybe blobs, who knows? The meal is plated, steamy, and perfectly portioned. A testament to pharmaceutical scheduling and sheer willpower. He enters, hangs his hat, and asks how your day went. You smile, delivering a summary so breezy and upbeat you almost believe it yourself. Dinner is served, the family assembles. Conversation ping-pongs from who kicked who on the playground to whether the president can really launch missiles from a briefcase. You keep the rhythm, passing dishes, refilling water, and only occasionally forgetting whether you seasoned the gravy or just imagined it. As plates empty and the pie is sliced, you notice the pleasant haze in your mind. The sort of dissociation that comes from 12 hours of productivity, fueled by science, determination, and a sprinkle of denial. You catch yourself watching the family like a director behind the scenes. Did they like the meatloaf? Did anyone notice the gel? Oh, is the wrong color? Did you already clean up? Or is that tomorrow's problem? By the time the last fork hits the plate, you've already wiped the counters, loaded the dishwasher, and started mentally prepping tomorrow's grocery list. Did you taste the food? Maybe. Did it matter? Not really. It's all a pleasant, slightly buzzing blur. Just another perfectly executed dinner hour in the golden age of domestic speed. At 6 p.m., it's cocktail hour. You swap your apron for pearls and pour a martini. Just a splash of gin and a whisper of vermouth with an olive for vitamins. You sit quietly decompressing with a barbiturate while the TV murmurs in the background. The world feels fuzzier. The casserole is safe. Your blood pressure is not. Let's pause and take in the ritual. The kitchen is finally clean. The children are somewhere between homework and quiet bickering. And your husband's footsteps echo down the hall with the rhythm of a man expecting his slippers and an anecdote about the traffic. But right now, the house is yours for a blissful, fragile moment. The air smells of gin, lemon twist, and whatever scented candle was on sale at the pharmacy this week. Seaside linen allegedly, but really just something vaguely aquatic and suspiciously flammable. The living room lighting is low. The sofa's cushions are fluffed, the ashtray is emptied, and the television set glows in the corner, offering the calming assurance that if you're not happy, at least Lucille Ball is. You lower yourself onto the couch. Pearls cool against your skin and savor that first sip. Martini hour is less about taste and more about ceremony. A socially acceptable exhale at the end of a tightly wound day. If you listen closely, you can almost hear the collective sigh of housewives up and down the block. The gentle clink of ice cubes harmonizing in a chorus of barely restrained relief. You reach for your trusty little barbiturate, a mood smoother, according to the friendly neighborhood doctor who thinks the real problem with modern women is too many worries and not enough rest. You take it with your cocktail, chasing it down with an olive in the unspoken hope that maybe, just maybe, this is the night everyone goes to bed on time. The TV hums on a parade of commercials for detergent, insurance, and new Chevrolets, each promising a life of effortless ease and sparkling teeth. Your mind floats a little, drifting between the soothing noise and the gentle pulse of whatever's working its magic from your medicine cabinet. For a few precious minutes, you don't worry about the sticky spot under the dining room table, the lunchbox mystery science experiment, or the questionable stain on your husband's tie. They can all wait until morning or possibly forever. Outside, the block is quiet. There's a golden haze as the sun dips behind a row of identical rooftops. You can see Mrs. Jensen next door through the window, also in pearls, also with a glass in hand. You raise yours in solidarity, sharing a silent toast to survival, sedatives, and social norms that absolutely no one asked for. She smiles, winks, and you both settle back. Co-conspirators in a quiet rebellion against spotless perfection. The kids wander in to ask about dessert. Voices soft around the edges. You nod, smile, and promise cookies after Daddy's home. Their little faces blur at the edges, half from love, half from a gentle pharmaceutical haze. You tuck a stray lock of hair behind your ear and feel the muscles in your jaw finally unclench. Somewhere between the last sip and the first bite of olive, you realize you haven't thought about dinner, housework, or next week's obligations in a good 6 minutes. Is it the martini, the barbiturate, or just a fleeting hard-won piece? You don't know. And for now, you don't care. This is your half hour of bliss, a lull in the storm of domesticity, where the world feels manageable, even if your blood pressure does not. And when your husband arrives, coat and hat in hand, you greet him with a smile as serene as a freshly shaken martini. The casserole is still warm. The children are still alive. And you are for the moment perfectly at ease. The real trick knowing that the secret ingredient in every cocktail hour is a little chemistry, a lot of hope, and the stubborn refusal to let reality spoil your buzz. Neighbors drop by unexpectedly, and you greet them with perfect hair, pressed clothes, and a voice that's just a notch too cheerful. Beneath the surface, your internal organs are running a marathon. But appearances are everything, especially in a neighborhood where everyone is running on something. The knock at the door is never convenient, never at a time when you're actually presentable by your own secret standards. But the code of the cul-de-sac is clear. You answer the door smiling, even if you have a face mask drying on one side and a little company wine sloshing in your coffee cup. It's a test, really. Can you look unflappable when your heart's thumping a jitterbug and you're still mentally cataloging which child left the sock sculpture in the hallway? Your neighbor, let's call her Barbara because there's always a Barbara, stands on the porch with a casserole dish and the slightly desperate look of someone who's just run out of both nutmeg and patience. She compliments your drapes, you compliment her shoes, and the polite duel of suburban one-upmanship begins. Oh, these old things. You chirp, indicating your dress, which is not old, just aggressively discounted. I just threw this on. A lie, but a required one. You invite her in, and the charade continues. She sits, crossing her legs just so, her perfume filling the air with undertones of gardenia and mild stress. You offer her coffee, though you both know there's a little something extra in the sugar bowl, just in case the conversation veers into emotionally hazardous territory. Small talk bubbles, sales at the grocery, the state of the Johnsons' lawn, rumors about someone's secret Tupperware stash. It's a performance, but it's also survival. In this neighborhood, you're not just keeping up with the Joneses. You're keeping up with their medicine cabinets, too. Everyone has a little something tucked away, whether it's a bottle of tranquilizers, a prescription for mood support, or just a secret stash of bourbon hidden behind the good china. The real taboo isn't taking something for your nerves. It's being obvious about it. You learn to read the signs. The slightly glazed look when Barbara recounts her latest casserole disaster. That's not just boredom. It's half a Miltown kicking in. The way Mrs. Freeman waters her roses every afternoon for exactly 9 minutes. A side effect of a daily dose of pep tablets. The PDA president's ability to organize 3 fundraisers before lunch. Caffeine, Dexedrine, and stubborn willpower in equal parts. Your own dosages are a carefully calibrated secret. A pill for pep in the morning, a gentle downer in the afternoon, a glass of cherry with dinner, and something subtle for sleep. You move through the day in a carefully balanced ballet. Never too wired, never too slow, always exactly as functional, as required by the schedule, taped to the refrigerator. You have the poise of a diplomat and the nerves of a squirrel in traffic, but nobody has to know. Sometimes you wonder what would happen if you dropped the mask. If just once you greeted the neighbor in North Rock lace, Rock Ellier curlers, robe and bare face, holding a mug that was nothing but straight bourbon. Would anyone even recognize you? Would they nod in solidarity? Or would you become the new topic at coffee club? The risk is too great. The mask stays on, the pearls stay clasped, and the pills stay hidden, out of sight, but never far from reach. When Barbara leaves, casserole dish in hand, you close the door and sag a little against the frame. The performance is over until the next unexpected visitor, the next school meeting, the next day that demands an extra dose of composure. You brush a stray hair into place, check your lipstick, and take a deep breath. Suburbia is theater, and everyone's running on something, whether it's willpower, whiskey, or the secret strength that comes in a little amber bottle. You straighten up, put the coffee pot back on, and smile. Tomorrow, the show must go on, and you'll be ready. You head to the evening PDA meeting, eyes wide and speech patterns suspiciously enthusiastic. You take copious notes, volunteer for 3 committees, and may or may not have promised to bake 200 cupcakes by Friday. You'll figure it out. You always do. Let's set the scene. The fluorescent lights are a little too bright. The coffee is a little too weak. And the folding chairs are specifically designed to discourage comfort and independent thought. The school gym smells like floor wax, nervous energy, and yesterday's lost gym socks. You slide into your seat, pee-noised, notepad open, and a nervous smile ready for deployment. Across the room, you spot your fellow soldiers, moms with identical handbags and matching, just a little tired glazes over their eyes. The meeting kicks off with the president's gavel and an agenda, so long you suspect it might be a coded message from another dimension. First up, fundraising. Someone suggests another bake sale. Your hand shoots up before your brain catches up. I'll help. You announce, voice slightly too chipper. It's the Dexedrine talking, or maybe just the momentum of collective responsibility in a public setting where no one wants to look like a slacker. Either way, you're now chairing the dessert committee. There's discussion about field trips, and somehow you're the new bus chaper. There's a debate about playground safety, and you volunteer to research the merits of Paravevel versus rubber mulch. Your notepad fills with doodles, lists, and reminders, most of which you'll decipher only after a good night's sleep and a gentle downer. But for now, you nod, take notes, and offer helpful suggestions with the energy of someone who's definitely had more than 1 cup of coffee and maybe just a pinch of pharmaceutical pep. The room is a symphony of whispered side comments, paper shuffling, and the steady drip of caffeine. You notice that everyone else's pens are moving with the same frenetic urgency as yours, and the collective hum of productivity threatens to lift the room off its foundation. Someone passes a clipboard for the spring fling decorations. You sign up for balloons, tablecloths, and just for fun, centerpieces. Your neighbor whispers, "Are you sure?" You smile. "Of course. I've got plenty of energy." The pharmacy agrees. Periodically, the conversation veers into the absurd. A 10-minute debate on whether cupcakes should be homemade or store-bought. A vote on who will coordinate napkins. You nod along, secretly plotting the quickest route through the local grocery aisle, calculating how many frosted baked goods you can assemble in a single night if you mix barbiturates with instant coffee. The school principal tries to wrangle the group back on topic, but the collective buzz is hard to corral. You're all wired, all willing, all just a little bit overcommit. You jot down names, phone numbers, and a reminder to check the expiration date on your baking powder. It's all a blur of responsibilities and good intentions fueled by stimulants, pride, and the fear of social disappointment by the time the meeting wraps up. You're running on fumes and good wishes, but you have a color-coded to-do list and the vague sensation that you've agreed to something important, possibly a fundraising car wash in October or the post-of-school mascot. On your way out, you exchange smiles and firm, glassy handshakes with other moms. all of you basking in the afterglow of communal overachievement. The night air is brisk, but you barely notice. You're already thinking ahead. Cupcakes, chaperoning, centerpiece ideas, and when you'll fit in a nap. Answer: never. You drive home, notepad balanced on the passenger seat, humming with a strange mixture of exhaustion and pride. The PDA has claimed another evening, and you, as always, are equal parts volunteer, superhero, and quietly buzzing chemical miracle. Tomorrow, you'll face the aftermath, emails, assignments, and the burning question: did you just volunteer to run the bake sale? Or did you agree to run for president? Either way, you'll figure it out. You always do. Once a week, it's girls' night. The conversation flows from chilled rearing to casserole recipes with occasional detours into whispered confessions. I just can't sleep without my Schnell anymore. Laughter bubbles up, part camaraderie, part collective denial, all washed down with a Chardonnay spritzer. The venue rotates. Sometimes Margie's living room with her terrifying collection of porcelain cats. Sometimes Linda's sun porch where the wicker cacks in unison with every sip. And tonight your own den lit softly by the warm glow of table lamps and a scent that's mostly fresh flowers and a little bit leftover meatloaf. The air is thick with the familiar symphony of ice cubes clinking. High heels kicked off and the gentle fizz of another bottle being opened. Everyone has brought something. Bundt cake, potato chips, a fresh story about a malfunctioning washing machine, or a husband who has suddenly discovered an allergy to yard work. As the evening unfolds, there's a gentle, unspoken competition to see who can appear the most relaxed. You pour generous glasses of Chardonnay spritzers, top up bowls of snack mix, and let yourself melt into the group's collective exhale. There's no PDA agenda, no casserole to time, just the pleasant, slightly drowsy haze of women letting themselves forget about tomorrow, at least for a little while. The talk starts small. Did you see Barbara's new curtains? How did you get your Jell-O so firm? But before long, the conversation drifts to the real stuff. Who slept? Who didn't? Who's hiding a bottle of Senil in the back of the bread box? Who had to call the doctor for something a little stronger after last week's incident with the stuck garage door and a rogue raccoon? There's a safety in these admissions, a mutual understanding that nobody's life is as composed as it appears at the bus stop. There are jokes about mothers' little helpers and half-hearted plans to just go natural for a week, all quickly abandoned by the second refill. Someone wonders aloud if they'd get more rest if they simply stopped caring about dinner altogether. More laughter, the cathartic kind. For a moment, it's enough just to sit here with your friends in a small pocket of peace built on sparkling wine and shared secrets. Someone pulls out a deck of cards, rummy, bridge, whatever. It hardly matters. The real game is the gentle banter and low-stakes confession. You learn that Janet once hid her pills in a hollowed-out cookbook, and that Donna sometimes swaps hers with her husband's digestive tonics just for fun. By the third round, you realize the entire group has their own subtle way of coping. A little chemistry, a lot of humor, and a stubborn refusal to let stress win the night. As the clock edges toward midnight, eyelids grow heavy, laughter turns to soft sighs, and the group's collective buzz fades to a calm, sleepy hum. You gather handbags, offer last rounds of water, and gentle reminders to drive safe. Dear, everyone lingers in the doorway, reluctant to leave the only place where perfect appearances aren't required, where a little mess is part of the charm, and where the line between a joke and a confession is lovingly blurred. You close the door behind your friends and let the silence settle. The kitchen is a mess. The snack bowls are empty, and your heart is just a little lighter. For tonight at least, you've been seen and understood. Not as a perfect housewife, but as a real person, tired, imperfect, and just trying to make it through. And as you crawl into bed, your mind drifts not to tomorrow's chores, but to the small, stubborn hope that next week's girls' night will come soon, bringing with it more laughter, more comfort, and of course, another round of tranquil reflections. Bedtime routines commence. The children are tucked in. You're next. But first, a quick check of the medicine cabinet. Tonight, it's a gentle nudge from a barbiturate, a glass of milk, and a magazine article about beating fatigue. Sleep comes eventually, but it feels more like tripping over the finish line than floating. There's a familiar choreography to these final hours. Upstairs, you shepherd the kids through their rituals. Pajamas on, teeth brushed. A brief spirited debate over whether monsters can fit under twin beds. You read the same storybook for the 8th time this month. Something about a heroic duck or a magical mitten. Their eyes droop, small hands clutching favorite toys, and the day's chaos dissolves into a chorus of soft snores. You linger for a moment, savoring the peaceful stillness, then gently close the door on the day's last burst of energy. Down the hallway, you switch off lights, straighten towels, and do a final patrol for loose Legos. Nothing ruins a moment of zen like a rogue plastic brick in the dark. The living room is silent except for the ticking wall clock and the low, omnipresent hum of the refrigerator. The house for a fleeting moment feels serene, as if the walls themselves are exhaling. Then it's your turn. You pad to the bathroom, open the mirrored cabinet, and contemplate the lineup of small glass bottles. Some for waking up, others for winding down, and at least one mystery prescription from a dentist appointment 2 years ago. Tonight you pick the barbiturate, the pharmacist's favorite lullaby, and shake a single tablet into your palm. You wash it down with a glass of milk because everyone knows milk aids sleep, as if calcium has any chance against the adrenaline of modern domesticity. You settle into bed, flipping through the latest magazine article that promises better sleep through clean living, deep breathing, and good moral hygiene. You roll your eyes and read on. Anyway, the tips are always the same. Avoid excitement before bed. Keep a regular schedule. And your favorite, banish stress with a grateful heart. You wonder if the author has ever hosted a birthday party for 12 kids while fielding calls from the PDA and folding laundry at midnight. The barbiturate starts its work. Your muscles slacken and thoughts become slow and syrupy. But true rest is never simple. Your mind races with tomorrow's lists. Bake sale cupcakes. Library books due. Something about a casserole for the neighbor with a broken leg. You count sheep. 1, 2, 3. But you're also counting pills, counting chores, counting days until the next holiday when you might get a sleep in. From a next room, a muffled thump. Is it the wind, the cat, a child embarking on a covert mission for water? You wait, holding your breath, then hear silence. You exhale, turn the page of your magazine, and stare at the photo of a model in crisp white sheets, blissfully asleep. You wonder if her medicine cabinet looks like yours, if her smile is helped along by a little chemistry, if she too sometimes finds sleep to be a kind of complicated negotiation. The barbiturate finally kicks in and the world softens. Your body sinks. Your eyelids grow heavy, and the bed that felt so cold a moment ago is now a cloud, or maybe a slightly lumpy sofa cushion. But at this point, you'll take it. As you drift, your last thought is a quiet hope that dreams tonight are gentle and free of lists. Sleep, when it comes, is more like stumbling into a safe room at the end of a marathon than floating on a dream. You made it. You did everything you could. And tomorrow, when the alarm blar and the cycle starts again, you'll rise. Pillbox at the ready, counting on just enough rest to keep the show going. For now, you're allowed to let go. Good night. You wake up groggy, slightly nauseous, and vaguely anxious. Was it the sleeping pill, the gin, or just the existential dread? No matter. You pop another pill and start the whole routine again, comforted by the thought that everyone else is doing exactly the same thing. The alarm clock shrieks again. It always sounds angrier in the morning, as if it resents being part of your daily cycle of ambition and artificial calm. You fumble for the switch, wishing for just 5 more minutes of oblivion, but there's no time for self-pity. The sun is already leaking through the curtains, burning a hole in your best intentions. You swing your legs out of bed, the floor cold, your mouth tasting like last night's worries mixed with whatever combination of barbiturates and vermouth you concocted for yourself before bed. You scan your body for aches. Back check, neck check, soul a little dented but still operational. In the bathroom mirror, you catch a glimpse of yourself. Eyes puffy, hair making a valiant but unsuccessful bid for escape. Pillow creases running diagonally across one cheek like battle scars. You smooth your face, splash water, and start the first ritual of the day. Reassembling yourself. The medicine cabinet opens with a sigh. And there it is, your morning lineup. Multivitamin check. Pep pill, double check, maybe a little antacid, just in case breakfast is ambitious. You swallow one at a time. The promise of a functional day, a steady hand, and a mind that won't melt into panic by 10 a.m. downstairs. The coffee percolator is already muttering encouragement, sending out fumes that mix with the scent of toasted bread and unresolved anxiety. Breakfast is less of a meal and more of an endurance sport. The kids are already bickering. The dog is licking the butter dish, and your husband has somehow managed to lose his tie again. Despite owning exactly two, you orchestrate the morning chaos with the precision of an exhausted conductor. Cereal poured, lunch is packed, homework signed. Someone's shoe is missing. You search, find in the fridge, don't ask, and try to laugh. It comes out as more of a sigh. The pills start to work their magic. Your thoughts speed up. Your hands stop trembling, and the world comes into focus, albeit through a slightly chemical haze. You count off tasks. Dishwasher loaded, coffee gulped, faces wiped, permission slip signed. If you move fast enough, maybe you'll outrun the weird little pulse in your temples, the one that whispers, "Is this what being awake feels like? Or is it just good chemistry?" You're not alone. The school bus idles outside, and through the fogged-up window you see your neighbor, her own eyes slightly glassy, smile too bright, waving as if to say, "Yes, I took one too." There's comfort in solidarity. Everyone's exhausted, everyone's medicated, and nobody says a word about it. You all just keep moving, hoping that the collective momentum will get you through another round of suburban bliss. By mid-morning, you're almost yourself again, whatever that means. Now, the house is quiet, the coffee is cold, and you take a moment to sit, staring out the window at the neat lawns and pristine sidewalks. You wonder if anyone else feels the same. The low buzz of fatigue, the ache behind the eyes, the secret longing to just for once go back to bed and stay there until spring. But the clock ticks, the chores call, and life rolls forward. You stand, shake off the last DGS of your hangover, chemical, emotional, or otherwise, and get back to work. The show must go on, and tomorrow you'll do it all over again. Because in 1950s suburbia, nobody talks about the hangover. They just take another pill and hope nobody notices the cracks. After all, you're not just keeping up appearances. You're keeping up with yourself. And that most days is the hardest part. Every housewife knows not to mention the pills in polite conversation. Everyone takes something, but no one admits it. Gossip about the neighbor's nervous troubles is deflected with a wave and a new prescription. The first rule of Housewife Club: never talk about Housewife Club. It's an unspoken code as sacred as any family recipe. In a neighborhood where everyone's medicine cabinet could stock a small pharmacy, the true contents are never discussed above a whisper. You may swap casserole secrets and laundry tips with your friends, but the talk about tranquilizers, pet pills, or sleeping powders is reserved for the rarest moments after the third glass of wine or in a darkened corner at a particularly disastrous PDA bake sale. Even then, the language is coded. How are you holding up translates to what's your dosage. Rough week means did you double up this morning or just go straight to sherry? There are knowing glances exchanged at the pharmacy counter. The kind of silent solidarity that binds women together in the unspoken acknowledgement that none of this is normal and all of it is necessary. You learn to keep your own secrets close. Pills are hidden in the flour tin, in a purse's secret pocket, or between the pages of a cookbook nobody actually uses. You practice swallowing them silently without even a clink against the glass, so the children think it's just a vitamin or an antacid. Your husband may suspect something, but as long as dinner is on the table and the bills are paid, nobody asks for details. When the topic comes up, because inevitably it does in a whispered aside about so who needed a little rest, the rules are clear. Sympathize, but do not dwell. She's just tired. Heard her doctor recommended a tonic. The phrase nervous breakdown hovers in the background, rarely defined, always feared. You know the signs. A neighbor vanishing for a rest cure. Returning weeks later, looking dazed but smiling with no one daring to ask too much. There's a paradox at play. The more everyone hides their struggles, the more alone you feel in yours. You watch the commercials on TV. Women smiling as they glide through housework, bright-eyed and unburdened. You wonder if their secret is the right detergent or just the right combination of pills. If you stare at their perfect hair and dazzling grins long enough, you almost believe it's possible to do it all without help. Almost. But real life is not a television ad. Real life is juggling grocery lists, emotional outbursts, PDA obligations, and a household that won't stop producing laundry. Some days it all feels like too much. On those days, you find yourself pausing in the hallway, hand hovering over your secret stash, listening to make sure no one's around before you take what you need to keep moving. The ritual is as ingrained as making coffee or brushing your teeth. You don't think about it. You just do it. On the rare occasion that someone lets their guard down, a quiver in the voice, a too long pause, a laugh that turns into a sigh, you want to reach out and say, "Me too." But you don't. The rules are the rules. Instead, you offer another cup of coffee, a slice of cake, and a smile so well practiced it could win awards. The secrets stay locked away behind mirrors and mere pill boxes beneath layers of good intentions. And so the first rule endures. Never talk about Housewife Club. Everyone's struggling. Everyone's coping, and everyone's pretending it's all under control. Because if you let the truth slip out, even for a moment, who knows what else might tumble free. For now, the only thing more carefully managed than your home is your silence. Every so often, someone disappears for a rest. She'll be back after a few weeks at a sanitarium and a reset of her medication. The phrase nervous breakdown floats over every head like a thundercloud. You wonder sometimes if you'll be next. It's an open secret in suburbia. One day you see your neighbor at the mailbox chatting about coupons and the latest grocery scandal. The next her blinds are drawn, her car hasn't moved, and a polite but mysterious cousin from out of town starts collecting her mail. The rest of the block keeps up appearances, but you can feel the ripple. Everyone's routine thrown slightly off by the absence. No casseroles delivered, no flowers sent. This isn't the flu. It's something more mysterious, more dangerous, and everyone hopes it's not contagious. The official story is always the same. She's just run down. The doctor says she needs a little rest. The words float from house to house, passed around like a recipe for invisible soup. The real story, though, is never spoken aloud. Maybe it was the constant pressure, the noise, the endless lists and invisible work. Maybe it was just one day, too many without a good night's sleep or a single sincere thank you. Or maybe the little helper pills stopped working and the dam finally broke. There's a system for these things. Quiet arrangements are made. Suitcases packed, children gently told, Mommy's going away to get better. The rest home, or sanitarium, if you want to sound fancy, sits on the edge of town, surrounded by trees and rumors. The brochure promises peace, tranquility, and modern treatments. But everyone knows it's a soft landing spot for the women who have finally visibly cracked under pressure. You watch quietly as life moves on. Another woman at coffee club disappears for a few weeks. Her absence is barely mentioned. And when she returns, There's a new glimmer in her smile. A little too bright, a little too careful. She brings home recipes for calm and stories about afternoon walks and restorative group therapy. No one asks what really happened. It's enough that she's back. The phrase nervous breakdown becomes a kind of boogeyman lurking just outside the glow of your kitchen light. It's in the way you clutch your pill box a little tighter on bad days, or how your hands shake when the kids start yelling and you can't quite block out the noise. It's the hush that falls over bridge club when someone asks how Barbara's doing, or the quick shift in conversation when someone mentions needing just a little more sleep. You wonder sometimes if you'll be next. Will it be after a lost casserole, a ruined PDA event, or the day you finally yell at the children in public? Maybe it will happen quietly on a Tuesday when you've run out of both patience and sleeping pills and can't face another load of laundry. Maybe someone will whisper your name at the drugstore in that same hushed tone, and the neighborhood will carry on unchanged with just one fewer smile on the carpool line. The fear is never spoken, but it shapes everything. The need to perform, to maintain, to medicate every emotion and keep the facade firmly in place. You throw yourself into busy work, polish the doorknobs, fluff the pillows, and make mental notes never to let your hands shake in public. Because the nervous breakdown threat isn't just about health, it's about visibility. To crack is to become the story. And in suburbia, that's the last thing you want. So you take your pills, force your smile, and hope that if the thundercloud ever finds you, at least someone will keep your spot warm until you return. And just maybe, you'll come back with your own set of restorative stories, another secret tucked away, and a new resolve to never let anyone see you sweat or stumble again. The doctor is always available for just a little something. Stressed? He has a pill for that. Too tired? Try this new pep tablet. Anxious? Let's double your prescription. He never asks about side effects. He just assumes you're as eager as he is to keep things running smoothly. The family doctor's office is the nerve center of 1950s suburban wellness. Decorated in muted tones and filled with the reassuring scent of rubbing alcohol, paper gowns, and authority, the receptionist recognizes your voice on the phone and already has the prescription pad ready by the time you walk through the door. There's no judgment, just a brisk efficiency as she slides a clipboard toward you and quietly admires your shoes. You wait in the same faded chair every time, flipping through a stack of glossy magazines that all promise you a happier, slimmer, and more energetic life, usually with the help of something in a bottle. Are you feeling blue? Trouble keeping up? The ads chirp. Just ask your doctor. You glance around the waiting room and wonder if anyone else is secretly there for the same reason or if everyone's here for sinus problems and routine checkups. When it's your turn, you're ushered in past the scale, the blood pressure cuff, and the stethoscope that smells faintly of aftershave. The doctor himself is an institution, gray at the temples, briskly paternal, and quick with a sympathetic smile. He takes a quick look at your chart, but doesn't really need it. He knows your husband's job, your children's allergies, your preferred brand of lipstick, and most importantly, your current prescription. How are we feeling today? He asks, pen already uncapped. You mention feeling a little tired, and his eyes twinkle. I think I have just the thing. If you're especially harried, he'll prescribe a little something extra. He never asks why the energy is missing or whether you actually have a spare minute to rest. The solution is always a pill. One for energy, one for calm, one for sleep, and a backup just in case tomorrow is especially demanding. Sometimes you suspect he's running his own science experiment, collecting data on how much a woman can accomplish when properly medicated. He flips through a little book of samples, offers you the latest miracle tonic, and reminds you that everyone's taking something these days. You nod because in his world, and now yours, relief comes in 15-minute appointments and small amber bottles. He doesn't talk about side effects, not unless you bring them up. And who wants to be difficult? If you mention the jitters, the insomnia, the new tendency to alphabetize your own dreams, he waves it off. A little nervous energy is good for you. He chuckles, as if the only problem you could possibly have is not enough ambition. If you mention that you've been feeling well, nothing at all, he reminds you how lucky you are to have modern science on your side. You walk out of the office every month with a bag of samples, a new prescription, and a sense of gratitude for the man in the white coat who's keeping your world spinning. It's a little like being a car with a mechanic. You bring in a rattle, leave with a tune-up, and no one ever talks about the possibility of needing a whole new engine. At home, you add the new bottle to your carefully curated collection. Morning, noon, and night. You follow the instructions, never missing a dose. You tell yourself that doctors know best, that this is progress, that a good patient is a quiet patient. You never ask too many questions. After all, there's always another pill for that. In the quiet moments, you wonder if he's a savior or just an enabler. Is this the future you were promised, or just another way to stay quiet, cheerful, and unfailingly productive? The prescription bottles rattle softly, and you push the thought away. The doctor says you're doing great, and that for now is enough. Your husband expects a calm, cheerful wife and a spotless home. You expect, well, at least a thank you, and maybe a foot rub. Instead, you get another prescription and a new recipe for meatloaf. It's not love exactly, but it is chemically stable. This is marriage, 1950s style. Less a meeting of souls, more a nonverbal agreement written in chores, casseroles, and little amber bottles. He leaves for work each morning with a quick kiss on your cheek and a gentle reminder to pick up his dry cleaning. You wave from the door, hair set and smile fixed, knowing full well the contract. The goalposts move every week, and the only constant is the quiet, desperate hope that you're doing as well as everyone else. Or at least that you look like you are. At the end of the day, you collapse onto the couch, the house spotless, the casserole praised, the facade intact. You allow yourself a tiny, exhausted smile. You've kept up with the Joneses, at least until tomorrow. And as you tuck your latest prescription behind the flour tin, you remember in this neighborhood, it's not just about outshining your neighbors. It's about outlasting them one little pill at a time. The children may not know what's in mommy's coffee, but they notice the ritual, the pills with breakfast, the cocktails at dinner, the occasional tears in the laundry room. You hope they learn the value of hard work, not just the importance of keeping secrets. In the golden lit world of 1950 suburbia, routines are everything. Morning starts with the clink of a spoon in a teacup, the quiet rattle of a pill bottle, and the cheerful declaration that today is going to be a busy one. The kids eat their cereal and watch you move through the kitchen. Apron tied and lipstick perfect hair, refusing to fall out of place, even when everything else does. They see it all. The way you tap out 2 little pills into your palm with the precision of a magician, washing them down with coffee and a quick practice gulp. The special glass mommy uses after the sun goes down, filled with something amber or fizzy. Depending on how the day went, they learn to read your moods in the set of your shoulders, the tone of your voice, the way your smile stretches just a little too wide when the phone rings during dinner. It's not that you want to teach them the fine art of concealment. You'd prefer they remember the fresh-baked cookies and sunny afternoons, the smell of laundry on the line, and the way you always remembered which friend didn't like crust on their sandwiches. But children are perceptive. They learn that some things are never discussed, like why mommy sometimes needs to rest her eyes in the afternoon, or why daddy makes his coffee extra strong on Sundays. The rituals become their own sort of family tradition. Medicine bottles are kept high, out of reach, but their presence is as constant as the cookie jar. The clinking of ice in a glass signals the end of the day as surely as the setting Sunday. They pick up on the hush that falls when someone mentions nerves or bad days. They see the tears that slip out when you think no one's looking, quickly wiped away with a dish towel and determined I'm fine. In the playroom, the children mimic what they see. Dolls have bedtime routines that include vitamins and tea. Parties sometimes involve a round of special milk to help everyone sleep. They know which cupboard the grown-up medicine is in. And they know without being told that some questions aren't meant to be asked at the dinner table or anywhere else. As they grow older, the lessons sink in deeper. They learn to smile for guests, to offer cookies and compliments, to keep certain family stories tucked safely away. They become masters of small talk and big secrets. And somewhere between spelling tests and summer picnics, they start to absorb the silent message that the real way to cope is to keep moving, keep smiling, and when all else fails, keep things quiet. You hope they'll remember the good parts, your laughter, your perseverance, the way you always tried, even on the days when it felt impossible. But there's a quiet fear, too, that they'll inherit more than your recipes and your resilience. That they'll pick up the same coping tools, the same hidden sadness, the same reliance on little bottles to get through big days. The world will change. New decades, new challenges, new slogans for having it all. But children who watch learn what survival looks like. Even if it's dressed up as perfection, you kiss their heads, tuck them in, and promise tomorrow will be better. Maybe it will. Maybe they'll break the cycle. Or maybe years from now, they'll find themselves standing in front of their own medicine cabinet, remembering a mother's smile that was sometimes just a little too bright, and a love that did its best, even when it wasn't quite enough. Eventually, the side effects catch up. The world shifts. Science advances. And suddenly the very drugs that made you the perfect housewife are called dangerous, addictive, or obsolete. You look back at the photo albums and wonder how much of the 1950s did you actually feel? And was anyone really happy or just really well medicated? The Tupperware lids, the recipe cards, and the matching mother otter dresses all make for picturesque memories. In the sea, tones of old photographs, the lawns are always green, the houses gleaming, and the smiles wide, almost too wide. But hindsight is a sharp-edged lens, and you start to notice the details you once glossed over, the glazed look in the eyes, the stiffness in every pose, the desperate grip on the punch glass at every backyard gathering. As the 1960s roll in, rumors start circulating that the little helpers are maybe a little too helpful. Studies appear in glossy magazines, the same ones that once pushed soothing tonics and invigorating amphetamines, now warning of addiction, withdrawal, and a host of side effects that sound uncomfortably familiar. Doctors, once so quick with a prescription, become KY. The pharmacist shakes his head and starts offering natural alternatives. You see the word dependency everywhere and realize it's not just about emotional support. Your friends gather less frequently for cake and coffee, more for whispered conversations over the phone. He brings home the bacon. You fry it up, serve it with a side of tranquilized serenity, and no one mentions the emotional labor clause. As the day ticks by, you keep everything humming, meals on time, beds made, children bathed. Each task measured against an invisible scale of marital satisfaction. Should you waver, raise your voice, leave a sock out of place, suggest that perhaps the world will not end if the windows go unwashed until Saturday, there's a solution. Not conversation, not compromise, but chemistry. The family doctor is only too happy to up your dose or switch your script, promising you'll feel more like yourself. Which self? Nobody says by the time your husband returns in the evening, you've vacuumed away the day's anxieties, polished the silverware, and maybe taken the edge off with a tiny pill and a splash of cherry. He walks through the door expecting peace, quiet, and if he's especially daring, a smiling wife. You serve dinner, make small talk, ask about his day at the office. He answers in great detail about a meeting you'll never quite understand. And listen, smile, nod. It's choreography perfected. Sometimes in the quiet between dinner and dessert, you catch him glancing your way with a look that's almost affectionate. Or maybe it's just indigestion. Hard to tell. He's on his own regimen of digestive aids, which is 1950s code for bourbon with a twist of denial. He expects things to run smoothly, children to behave, the house to sparkle, and you to be above all else pleasant. If things slip, if your temper frays or the pot roast burns, he frowns. Checks his watch and the room tightens. He never says, take something for it. But you both know that's the next step. Harmony by prescription. You in turn expect not much. Maybe a thank you for the dinner. A nod of approval when the children say please and thank you. A foot rub on a particularly long Friday. Though by now you've learned to settle for a new recipe or a compliment on your lemon meringue pie. You keep a secret hope that one day you'll talk about dreams, fears, the weird way the wallpaper looks at dusk. Instead, you swap recipes for coping. He hands you a magazine clipping. Try this for dinner. You hand him his pills, and the cycle continues. Neither of you is cruel. Exactly. Just tired. He plays his part. You play yours. And between you a small fortress of pharmaceutical peace. It's not the romance you once imagined, but it's stable like the casserole that never burns or the living room that never quite accumulates dust. Sometimes late at night, you wonder what would happen if you broke the contract. If you said, no, I don't want another pill. I want a real conversation. Or if he looked at you and really saw the effort behind the calm. But these thoughts are fleeting, dulled by routine, washed away by the gentle tide of chemistry and compromise. And so you continue smiling, soothing, serving, honoring your side of the bargain. He'll never know how many pills it takes to keep things humming. And maybe that's the secret to a happy home in this era. Not honesty, not passion, but a delicate pharmaceutical truce. Competition in suburbia is fierce. Everyone is trying to outbake, outclean, and outhost the others. What they don't mention, everyone is also trying to outmedicate the creeping sense of ennui and exhaustion that comes with the job. Every block has its own version of the Joneses. The family with the brightest green lawn, the crispiest fried chicken, and the most aggressively festive holiday displays. But underneath the bunting and the fresh coat of paint, there's another contest going on. It's not just about who has the best delayed eggs at the block party. It's about whose medicine cabinet rattles with the most up-to-date arsenal of pharmaceutical helpers. The signs are subtle, but you learn to read them. Mrs. Wilson's cupcakes always have 3 layers of icing, but so does her eyelid twitch. Mr. Bennett can power wash his entire driveway before breakfast. But you know it's not just the coffee talking. Meanwhile, you're on your 3rd energy vitamin of the afternoon, eyeing the neighbor's meticulously weeded flower bed and wondering if she has a direct pipeline to the local pharmacy or just a superior brand of denial. At every gathering, the real contest is unspoken. The house is immaculate. The hostess's hair is shellacked to perfection, and the conversation is as bubbly as the lemonade. Underneath, though, it's a pharmacological arms race. Who's got the best pep pills, the smoothest tranquilizers, the most modern approach to sleep, energy, or just surviving another week of casserole duty and carpool lines? You find yourself comparing notes in coded language. How do you keep up? Someone asks, eyebrow raised. Oh, just a little pick-me-up in the morning, you reply, and the group nods knowingly. No one says amphetamines. No one has to. Instead, you swap tips on the best pharmacy in town, the friendliest doctor, and which new prescription samples actually taste like mint instead of chalk. It's not just about keeping pace. It's about not falling behind. You keep your house as spotless as Mrs. Anderson's, but secretly you hope her migraines flare up during the next bake sale, giving you a shot at blue ribbon glory. At Bridge Club, the conversation dances delicately around who's feeling run down and whose doctor just understands women. There's a kind of sisterhood in the shared denial, an unspoken pact that you'll all pretend it's the Tupperware, not the tablets, giving you the energy to host 12 people and refinish the patio on the same day. The pressure is relentless. You scrub a little harder, bake a little fancier, and smile a little wider, hoping no one can see the tremor in your hands or the exhaustion behind your eyes. You update your wardrobe, your recipe box, and your list of acceptable medications, all in the name of not being the one who drops the ball. You buy new lipstick and ask the pharmacist if they've heard about any exciting new supplements on the market. Every win is tinged with anxiety. Did they notice the dust on the mantle? Did someone catch you sneaking a pill with your lemonade? Did you forget to RSVP to the neighborhood cookout? Or did your pep just wear off? The game never ends. Did you hear about Janet? Did you see the news last night? There's a quiet reckoning, a wave of embarrassment and guilt. The barbiturates, the amphetamines, the mood smoothers. Suddenly, they're not symbols of progress, but relics of an era that promised easy solutions to hard problems. For some, quitting is simple, a matter of willpower and new habits. For others, it's an ordeal. The headaches, the sweats, the strange sensation of feeling everything all at once. Emotions raw and vivid after years spent carefully wrapped in cotton wool. The routines are disrupted. The smiles don't come as easily. The world feels sharper, louder, even a little colder. You realize that for better or worse, the medicine cabinet was a buffer between yourself and the chaos, between your hopes and your disappointments. And then comes the new wave: therapy, consciousness, raising groups, articles about self-care, and finding your voice. The Housewives magazine swaps recipes for casseroles with guides to meditation, yoga, and assertiveness training. It feels alien at first. Self-discovery instead of self-discipline. Talking about your feelings instead of swallowing them down with a chalky pill. There's comfort in it, but also confusion. What does it mean to feel all your feelings, especially when you spent years trying not to? You flip through those photo albums and see both the beauty and the blur. The birthday parties you hosted with mechanical perfection. The holidays when the tree was always straight and the turkey always dry. The laughter that was real and the laughter that was coaxed out with a second glass of cherry and a pill split in half. You wonder if you had the choice again. Would you do it differently? Or would you choose the same armor, one that let you survive, but at the price of really living? The children grow up and leave, and the house grows quiet. You saw it through the detritus of a manicured life, occasionally finding an old prescription bottle at the back of a drawer. The label faded, and the pills long since crumbled. You smile at the absurdity, at the resilience it took to get here, and at the knowledge that history is always rewriting itself. What was once a solution becomes a warning, and the masks we wore are finally gently set aside. In the end, you know that happiness is never as simple as a prescription. It's messy, vivid, and often hard-won. The cocktail era is over, but the lesson endures. You survived, and sometimes that's enough. Breakfast in 1956 is a grapefruit, black coffee, and a small tablet promising to melt the pounds right off. The label says appetite suppressant. Your friends call them miracle pills. You call them why I reorganize the garage at 2 a.m. Everyone's desperate to stay slim, even if the scale moves more from water loss than actual weight. Who needs protein when you have pharmaceutical willpower? The world has declared war on fat, and every woman in suburbia is expected to suit up. Gone are the days when healthy meant a nice layer of insulation for winter. Now it's all about looking like the model in the Sears catalog. Tiny waist, pencil skirt, never a wrinkle, and absolutely no evidence of ever having eaten a carb. You don't just want to fit into your clothes. You want to be the envy of the neighborhood. The cautionary tale for anyone who dares put extra sugar in their iced tea. You start each morning with a silent prayer that today the scale will be kind. The grapefruit is a ritual, a sour mouth-puckering start that combined with black coffee and the magic of modern science promises not just a slimmer you, but a whole new lease on life. Your husband glances at your breakfast and raises an eyebrow. Not hungry. You force a cheerful shrug. Just try and stay healthy. He pours another bowl of cornflakes, blissfully unaware that your diet is less about willpower and more about pharmaceutical innovation. The pill itself is no bigger than a baby aspirin, but the label is bold. guaranteed to suppress appetite and increase energy. You don't know what's in it. Nobody really does. But you do know that after 20 minutes, your hunger is gone and your motivation is sky high. You'll clean the house, trim the hedges, alphabetize the spice rack, and still have time to reorganize the linen closet before lunch. Food. You barely remember what it's for. You're running on caffeine, determination, and a little pill that keeps the pangs at bay, and your mind just a touch jittery. Of course, you're not alone. Every woman on the block is in the same unspoken competition. At Bridge Club, you trade recipes for low-cal gelatin salads and swap tips on the best eye doctors. At Tupperware parties, compliments are measured not in inches lost, but in how perky you seem. Oh, you have so much energy. Someone gushes. You smile, cheeks flushed, hands trembling ever so slightly as you reach for a celery stick that tastes like ambition. Side effects. You don't talk about them. The heart palpitations, the night spent staring at the ceiling, counting not sheep, but regrets. Those are private matters best left out of the neighborhood gossip circuit. If you mention them to the doctor, he waves a hand. Perfectly normal, just proof they're working. You nod, grateful for the reassurance and the next month's supply. Sometimes you wonder where it all ends. At 2 a.m., elbow deep in the junk drawer, organizing rubber bands by size, you catch your reflection in the toaster. Are you thin or just thinner? Are you healthy or just hungry? But you know the answer doesn't matter. Not now. Not with swimsuit season looming and the block party bake-off coming up. You reach for a glass of water, ignore the rumble in your stomach, and remind yourself that nothing tastes as good as being admired by your peers. The diet pill revolution leaves its mark on your wardrobe, your sleep, your nervous system, and the quiet understanding among women that in the end, the biggest weight you carry isn't on your hips. It's the expectation that you'll always be just a little bit less, a little bit lighter, and if possible, never hungry again. But hey, at least the garage is clean. And who needs lunch when you have pharmaceutical progress? Night falls, the house is finally quiet, and you are wide awake, heart racing, thoughts spiraling, nerves humming with a familiar artificial energy. Luckily, you've got a little something for that, too. A barbiturate, maybe a splash of cherry for good measure. Drifting off is less about rest and more about chemistry. If you dream, it's usually of running errands at double speed, sometimes in heels. The house has gone still, except for the distant hum of the refrigerator and the low static of the television left on for company. The kids are tucked in, the husband is already snoring, and the book only sounds the ticking clock and the soft rustle of a magazine page. As you flip through another article on 21 ways to be more efficient tomorrow, you can't help but laugh quietly so you don't wake anyone. As if efficiency is the problem and not the fact that your body is still running on enough stimulants to jumpstart a Buick. You check your reflection in the bathroom mirror, the harsh light revealing eyes a little too bright, lips pressed tight in a smile that's more determined than relaxed. You open the medicine cabinet, your own late-night vending machine, and pull out a small bottle with a handwritten label that says for restful sleep. The pharmacist gave it to you last month, promising you'd wake up refreshed, glowing, ready to face another day of endless chores and mandatory cheerfulness. Down goes the tablet, chased by a polite sip of cherry, because the commercial said a little nightcap is the mark of a sophisticated woman. You slip back into bed, fluff the pillow, and wait for science to do its thing. Your mind, however, hasn't gotten the memo. It darts from the unfinished laundry to tomorrow's dinner. From little Bobby's math homework to the nagging suspicion you forgot to sign a permission slip. You try to count sheep, but they're sprinting past you, each one wearing a sash that says errand of the day. The barbiturate works slowly, creeping in around the edges of your buzzing brain. Your limbs grow heavy, but your thoughts float up and away, refusing to land. It's not quite sleep, not quite wakefulness, just a pleasant gray limbo where time feels stretched and logic gets fuzzy. Occasionally, you dip down into something like a dream. You're vacuuming the entire house in 6 minutes flat, or showing up at the PDA meeting in nothing but your slip and pearls. You wake with a start, heart pounding, and remind yourself that even in your dreams, you never stop moving. Out in the hallway, the floorboards creak, an ominous sign that a child might appear at any moment, demanding water, comfort, or an explanation for why monsters only come out at bedtime. You hold your breath until the house settles, then reach for a magazine you've read 5 times already. The cover promises better sleep through self-care, yoga, and herbal tea, as if any of those stand a chance against the combined forces of Dexedrine, daily anxiety, and the weight of having it all. Eventually, the barbiturate wins the tug-of war. Your eyes grow heavy, your mind stutters, and you finally begin to drift, not float, into something that passes for rest. If you're lucky, you won't wake until morning. If you're not, you'll be up in 2 hours reorganizing the kitchen cabinets or making a shopping list for the next week's meals. Morning will come all too soon with its parade of expectations and the comforting rattle of another pill bottle. But for now, you surrender to chemically assisted sleep, grateful for the silence, the softness, and the knowledge that at least tonight you won't be running errands in heels unless the dreams get really ambitious. Because in 1950s suburbia, sleep is a project, rest is a prescription, and the closest thing to a lullaby is the gentle click of the medicine cabinet closing for the night. Every glossy magazine promises the secrets to a perfect home and a tranquil mind. Just ask your doctor for the new mood booster. The advice columns are filled with cheery endorsements for the latest pills sandwiched between meatloaf recipes and hair perm disasters. You flip through the pages wondering if anyone ever finishes the crossword, or if everyone just gets distracted by the ad for diet amphetamines on page 3. Your morning routine isn't complete without a stack of magazines. Good Housekeeping, Better Homes and Gardens, Ladies' Home Journal, each one a brightly colored Bible of domestic perfection. The covers beckon, smiling women with impossibly tiny waists holding plates of food you suspect have never been eaten in real life. The headline scream promises: conquer fatigue forever, secrets to perfect children, how to win your husband's heart, and still have time for Jell-O mold. The advice columns are their own special circus run by agony ants with names like Prudence or Marjorie, each one dispensing wisdom that oscillates between the slightly helpful and the downright surreal. My husband never compliments my pot roast, laments one reader. Have you tried reorganizing your spice cabinet, or perhaps a gentle sedative before dinner? Comes the reply. Sometimes the answer really is, try baking soda for stains. But more often, it's ask your doctor about our exciting new tranquilizer. The same pill currently featured in a full-page ad next to a coupon for margarine. Every article is written in that relentlessly optimistic tone, the kind that insists no problem is too big for the right casserole, the right lipstick, and the right combination of mood boosters. You wonder if the writers are as peppy as their prose, or if they too are working through a haze of Dexedrine and department store coffee. On page 5, you learn how to bake a cake that will make your neighbors weep with envy. On page 7, you're instructed to never go to bed angry. But if that fails, there's always a nightcap and a sleeping aid to smooth the edges. The magazine ads are where the real magic happens. A radiant woman mid-twirl claims she got her waistline back, and her husband too thanks to doctor-approved reducing tablets. Another spread features a mother with 4 kids and a spotless home, crediting her calm energy to a new pill formulated especially for women's delicate systems. Between recipes for tuna surprise and tips on keeping your hair helmet hard, there's an ad urging you to ask your physician about our new non-habit-forming tranquilizer. The only habit apparently is reading the same promises every month of course. There are also horror stories tucked in the back, confessions about lost sleep, bad hair, and the neighbor who had to go away for a rest. But these are quickly sandwiched between breezy tips on hosting the perfect garden party and the latest updates on what your husband's tie color says about your marriage. The subtext is always the same. If things aren't perfect, you just haven't tried the right product or the right prescription. You realize flipping through these glossy pages that every solution is just a page away. Every crisis curable with a pill, a pie, or a new cleaning regimen. There's little room for imperfection, little acknowledgement that sometimes the problem isn't your casserole, but the expectation that you must always be cheerful, slim, organized, and emotionally serene, preferably all at once. You put the magazine down, page corners bent, crossword unfinished. Outside, the world is a little messier, a little noisier, and a lot less glossy than the pictures would have you believe. You smooth your apron, adjust your mood one way or another, and prepare to tackle the day's next challenge. After all, if the answers aren't in the magazine, there's always your medicine cabinet or the next issue. Or maybe, just maybe, a world where perfection doesn't come in a bottle or a 10-step list. But that's not this month's feature story. Maybe next time. Once a month, the neighborhood hosts a luncheon, a potluck with more pharmaceuticals than side dishes. Between bites of Jell-O salad, you trade gossip, casserole recipes, and the occasional pill. Someone has an extra tranquilizer from last month. Someone else is trying a new energy formula. It's like a PDA meeting, but with more controlled substances and fewer minutes taken. Let's set the table. The living room is dressed for the occasion. A riot of pastel napkins and gleaming crystal. Each fork and spoon positioned like chess pieces before a particularly gentile battle. There's the sound of laughter, the clink of serving spoons, and the unmistakable hum of collective anxiety. Subdued, but always present like a radio tuned low in the next room. The hostess beams, hair perfectly set as she invites everyone to sample her famous delied eggs. The secret ingredient is paprika and relentless social pressure. The food is as ambitious as the guest list. Casseroles, Jell-O molds, extra firm of course, and mysterious salads that somehow involve marshmallows and shredded carrots. Everyone brings a dish and something just a little stronger, tucked away in a coin purse or wrapped in a tissue at the bottom of a handbag. In case anyone needs a little pick-me-up, someone whispers, and you all laugh, but it's not really a joke. The real menu is hidden in plain sight. Someone passes a discreet envelope onto the table. Just some extras from last month, darling. Another woman, always a trendsetter, produces a tiny bottle and confides. My doctor says it's the latest thing. Very modern, works wonders, and only mild heart palpitations. Heads nod in approval, each guest mentally updating her own secret stash. You start to realize that half the reason anyone shows up is to restock. Gossip swirls with the chicken salad, who's on the new diet formula, who's sleeping again, who's mysteriously gone to visit her sister for a few weeks. There's sympathy, but also a kind of relief. Thank goodness it's not your turn. At least not this month. Someone's husband has switched to digestive tonics. Someone else has a new doctor who's very understanding about women's needs. You jot down his name for later because in this neighborhood, a good doctor is almost as valuable as a good recipe. There's a camaraderie in the sharing, a whispered solidarity that smooths over the awkwardness of living in a world where everyone is expected to be perfect, perky, and perfectly calm. I just need something to get through the week. Someone says, passing a little bottle your way. You nod, knowing you'll return the favor next month, maybe with a few extra sleeping aids or a fresh supply of pep pills if your doctor is in a generous mood. Dessert is a blur of chocolate mousse, lemon bars, and half-hearted promises to cut back on sugar. No one ever does. As the luncheon winds down, handbags are zipped, small bottles are shuffled, and everyone rises a little lighter, either from the laughter, the pills, or just the comfort of knowing you're not the only one relying on pharmaceutical reinforcements. The hostess hands out partying favors, tiny plastic containers for leftovers, a fresh set of recipe cards, and the knowledge that this month's secrets are safe among friends. You gather your things, making a mental note of who needs a refill and who's offering a trade. There's a certain satisfaction in the routine, a feeling that no matter how chaotic the outside world becomes here in this sunlit room, you're all in it. Together, you step out into the afternoon light, heart steady, if not a little sped up, smile fixed, ready to face another month of silent struggles and whispered support. The next luncheon is already penciled in, another checkpoint on the calendar of survival. Because in this neighborhood, the secret ingredient to every gathering is just a little chemical courage shared with a wink and a recipe for resilience. So tonight, as you drift towards sleep in your comfortable bed, phone charging, heating on, and not a single amphetamine in sight, spare a soft, grateful thought for the unsung heroines of history's strangest wellness trend. The 1950s housewives weren't just the queens of casserole. They were the original multitaskers, juggling children, marriages, and the weight of 1,000 expectations, all with a pharmaceutical toolkit that would make a pharmacist weep. They survived endless PDA meetings, gossip that stung sharper than any tranquilizer, and the relentless pressure to keep everything just so. Their struggles were real, sometimes quietly desperate, sometimes absurdly comic, and always harder than the smiling photographs let on. They did it not because they had to be perfect, but because everyone said they should be. And when perfection was impossible, they gritted their teeth, popped a little helper, and kept moving. Anyway, if there's something to take from their daily circus of chores and chemistry, it's not just a warning about the dangers of unchecked prescriptions. It's a reminder that resilience comes in all forms, even if it's fueled by Dexedrine and determination. These women did what they had to do, making the best of an impossible situation with deadpan wit, creativity, and a stubborn hope that tomorrow might be a little bit easier. So as you close your eyes tonight, maybe whisper a thank you to the women who came before, who survived restless nights, impossible standards, and enough side effects to fill a medical textbook, because history is proof that people are stubborn, hopeful, and occasionally ridiculous. You're here in a kinder, cozier world, partly because someone else once vacuumed the living room at midnight and smiled through it all. Rest easy knowing you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be here.